Before you scroll away, pause for just a moment, because the last scene of this story will stay with you long after the video ends. And if stories of impossible dreams, raw talent, and second chances move your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel right now, so you never miss stories that can change the way you see the world. The theater fell silent in a way that only happens right before something unforgettable. The lights dimmed, the judges leaned forward, and the crowd held its breath. A young Filipino man stood alone on the America's Got Talent stage, hands trembling slightly, eyes fixed on the glowing audience. Few people watching knew that this moment, this single step onto the stage, had been decades in the making, born in dusty village streets thousands of miles away. He grew up in a small rural village in the Philippines where mornings began with roosters crowing and evenings ended with the hum of cicadas. His house was made of thin wood and rusted tin, and when it rained, water slipped through the roof in narrow streams. Electricity was unreliable, and some nights, the only light came from a flickering candle. His parents worked endlessly just to keep food on the table. Dreams, in that place, were considered a luxury. But music had a strange way of finding him. On an old radio held together with tape, he first heard Elvis Presley. The voice felt different, powerful, aching, alive. He didn't understand the English words at first, but he understood the emotion. It felt like someone was singing directly to his soul. From that day on, he began copying Elvis's voice, his movements, his style, practicing in secret on the dirt roads of his village, using puddles as mirrors. Other kids laughed. Some adults shook their heads. They told him singing wouldn't put food on the table. They told him to focus on real work. And many nights, he almost believed them. But every time doubt crept in, he remembered the way music made him feel less invisible, less powerless. It made him feel like he mattered. As a teenager, he sang wherever he could, local fiestas, small weddings, street corners where coins were tossed more out of pity than appreciation. Some nights he earned enough to help his family eat. Other nights he earned nothing but sore feet and crushed hope. Still, he kept singing. He sang when his voice cracked. He sang when his stomach was empty. He sang when the world told him to stop. The hardest moment came when his father fell ill. Medical bills piled up, and the family faced impossible choices. For a while, he stopped singing to work odd jobs, carrying heavy loads under the scorching sun. His hands grew rough, and his voice grew quiet. But late at night, when everyone slept, he whispered Elvis songs under his breath, afraid that if he stopped completely, he would lose himself forever. Years passed. Opportunities were scarce. Rejection became familiar. Yet one day, someone showed him a video of America's Got Talent. Bright lights. Massive crowds. People like him, ordinary people, getting extraordinary chances. The idea felt ridiculous, almost cruel. How could someone from a forgotten village even dream of that stage? Still, the thought wouldn't let go. With borrowed money, endless paperwork, and prayers whispered by his mother, he applied. When the confirmation came, he cried, not because he believed he would win, but because for the first time, the world had opened a door, even just a crack. Flying to America felt unreal. The buildings were taller than anything he had ever seen. The streets were louder. The fear was heavier. Backstage at AGT, surrounded by confident performers, he felt small again. Doubt screamed louder than ever. But then he remembered his village. His parents. The nights without light. The songs sung into darkness. And he stepped forward. When he introduced himself, his accent was thick, his voice soft. Some smiled politely. Some judges raised eyebrows. Expectations were low. And then the music started. The first note changed everything. His voice carried pain, longing, and raw power, like a lifetime of struggle poured into sound. He wasn't just singing like Elvis, he was telling his own story through every lyric. The audience slowly rose to their feet. One judge's eyes filled with tears. Another placed a hand over their mouth in shock. As the final note echoed through the theater, there was a brief second of silence, the kind that comes right before an explosion. Then the crowd erupted. Cheers thundered. The judges stood. And before he could even process what was happening, a judge slammed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down as he collapsed to his knees, sobbing. In that moment, the village streets, the laughter, the hunger, the doubt, it all led here. Not just to success, but to validation. To proof that dreams born in the poorest places can still reach the brightest stages. But the real victory wasn't the buzzer. It was the message he carried back to the world that talent doesn't ask where you're from, and hope doesn't care how little you have. It only asks that you don't give up. So if you're watching this and feeling unseen, unheard, or stuck, remember his journey. Remember that somewhere, someone once told him his dream was impossible, and today, millions stand in awe of his voice. If this story moved you even a little, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope. Because sometimes, all it takes is one song, one chance, and one brave step forward to change everything. Before the final moment arrives, before the tears fall and the crowd rises to its feet, pause with me right here. Because this is not just a performance story, it is a life story, one that proves dreams can grow even in the harshest soil. And if stories like this touch your heart, if they remind you not to give up on your own dreams, please like this video and subscribe to the channel now. Your support helps bring more real, emotional stories like this to the world. Long before the golden buzzer, long before the roaring crowd and blinding lights, there was a barefoot boy walking along cracked village roads in the Philippines. The roads were dusty in summer and muddy during the rains, lined with small wooden houses patched together with rusted tin. Children played with homemade toys, laughter mixing with hardship. This boy carried no toys, only songs he sang quietly to himself, songs that helped him forget hunger, fear, and the weight of poverty. His family had very little. His father worked long hours doing labor wherever work could be found, and his mother sold small goods just to stretch meals for the day. Some nights, dinner was rice and salt. Some nights, it was nothing. Yet his parents gave him something priceless, belief. Even when they worried about survival, they never laughed at his singing. They never told him to stop dreaming, even when they feared those dreams would break his heart. Music entered his life through an old radio someone had thrown away. It barely worked, crackling with static, but one night a voice cut through the noise. Elvis Presley. The sound was rich, emotional, powerful. The boy froze. It felt like the voice reached inside him and pulled something awake. He didn't understand the language, but he understood the feeling. That voice sounded like pain and hope fighting each other, and hope winning. From that night on, he sang Elvis songs everywhere. He sang while fetching water. He sang while walking to school. He sang in empty fields, pretending the wind was an audience. He watched old videos whenever he could, copying the way Elvis moved, the way he held the microphone, the way he commanded attention. In the reflection of puddles and cracked mirrors, he imagined himself on a stage, lights shining, people listening. But dreams are fragile in places where survival comes first. At school, classmates mocked him. They said he sounded strange. They said he should sing local songs instead of copying a foreign star. Teachers warned him to focus on real work. Slowly, the laughter began to hurt more than the hunger. There were nights he cried silently, wondering if everyone else was right. As he grew older, responsibility arrived early. When his father's health declined, he dropped out of school to help earn money. He carried sacks, cleaned yards, worked construction jobs far beyond his strength. The sun burned his skin. His hands cracked and bled. Singing became something he did only at night, quietly, afraid that dreaming too loudly would feel cruel. Still, music refused to leave him. Even when his voice was tired, it carried the weight of his life. People began to notice. At small gatherings and local fiestas, someone would ask him to sing. Coins fell into his hands. Sometimes applause followed. Those small moments felt like oxygen. They reminded him that he wasn't invisible. Then came years of struggle. Auditions that led nowhere. Promises that turned empty. Nights when he wondered if he had wasted his life chasing something impossible. He watched others succeed while he stayed behind. Doubt became his closest companion. Yet something inside him refused to die. It whispered, just one more try. The idea of America's Got Talent entered his life through a borrowed phone. He watched clips of ordinary people stepping onto a world stage and changing their lives in minutes. The thought terrified him. It felt like aiming for the stars when he couldn't even afford proper shoes. But fear and hope are often born together. Applying meant paperwork, videos, and money he didn't have. His family sold small belongings. Friends contributed what little they could. His mother prayed every night. When the acceptance email arrived, his hands shook so badly he could barely read it. He cried like a child, overwhelmed not by confidence, but by gratitude. America was louder, bigger, colder. The stage felt unreal. Backstage at AGT, surrounded by polished performers, he felt the old doubts return. Who was he to stand here? What if he failed in front of the world? His heart raced as his name was called. He walked onto the stage carrying his entire past with him. The judges smiled politely. The audience waited. Then the music began. His voice rose, strong and aching, filled with decades of struggle. Every note carried hunger, sacrifice, and stubborn hope. He wasn't imitating Elvis, he was channeling him through his own life. The crowd leaned in. Judges exchanged looks. Emotion spread like wildfire. By the final note, the room was electric. Silence fell. Then thunderous applause exploded. One judge stood. Another wiped tears away. And then, the golden buzzer. As gold confetti fell, he collapsed, overwhelmed. In that moment, the village roads, the broken radio, the nights of hunger, all of it made sense. He had not survived for nothing. But his story didn't end there. It became a message. A reminder that dreams don't belong only to the rich or lucky. They belong to the brave. To those who endure rejection, laughter, and pain, yet keep going. So if you're watching this and feel stuck, remember him. Remember that somewhere, a boy once sang into the darkness with no audience, and today, the world listens. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs hope. Because miracles don't come from comfort. They rise from courage.